I never thought my Thursday evening would end with my 16-year-old stepson gripping my arm in the driveway, his face drained of colour, whispering the words that would unravel everything I thought I knew about my marriage. "Please, David, please don't tell Mum what I saw." His voice cracked on the last word, and in the amber glow of the porch light, I could see tears pooling in his eyes. Noah wasn't a crier. In the 3 years since I'd married his mother, I'd seen him laugh, seen him sulk, seen him rage at video games and argue about curfews, but I had never seen him cry. "Noah, what's going on?" I kept my voice steady, though my heart had started hammering against my ribs. "What did you see?" He glanced back towards the street where his friend's car was pulling away, red taillights disappearing around the corner. We'd just gotten home from his basketball game, a close win that should have had him buzzing with adrenaline and teenage invincibility. Instead, he looked like he'd witnessed something that had aged him a decade in a single evening. "In Mum's car," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Last night I went out to get my gym bag because I forgot it after practice, and I saw." He stopped, swallowing hard. There was someone in there with her. They were just sitting there talking, but the way they were sitting, the way she was looking at him. "David, I don't know what to do." The world seemed to tilt slightly beneath my feet. My wife, Jennifer, my beautiful devoted wife, who taught third grade and volunteered at the animal shelter and made homemade lasagna every Sunday. The woman who'd promised me forever just 3 years ago in a small ceremony at the Botanical Gardens. Who was it? I heard myself ask. Noah's grip on my arm tightened. "I don't know. I couldn't see his face clearly, but it wasn't you, and she was holding his hand, David. And when she saw me through the window, she looked terrified. She jumped out of the car so fast and told me she was just talking to an old friend who was going through a divorce, that she was counseling him, but..." He trailed off, his eyes searching mine desperately. I wanted to believe her. I tried to believe her, but something felt wrong. Until I stood there in our driveway, under the white colonial lamppost Jennifer had insisted we install last spring because it reminded her of the neighborhood she grew up in, and tried to process what Noah was telling me. The October air had that crisp bite to it that usually made me feel alive, made me grateful for the life I'd built. Now it just felt cold. "When did this happen? What time?" "Around 11. I couldn't sleep, so I was going to shoot some hoops in the driveway, clear my head. I was having trouble with this girl at school, you know, the one I told you about. Emma. Anyway, I went out the side door so I wouldn't wake anyone, and that's when I saw the car. Mum's Camry was parked on the street instead of in the garage, and the interior light was on. I knew Jennifer had gotten home late last night. She'd told me she was at a teachers' union meeting that ran long, that they were discussing new curriculum standards and budget cuts. She'd come to bed around 11:30, smelling faintly of her usual perfume and something else I hadn't quite placed. Coffee, maybe. Or cologne. "Did your mom say anything else to you after that, this morning?" Noah shook his head. She acted like nothing happened. Made breakfast, asked about my history test, reminded me about the game tonight. Completely normal. That's what's freaking me out, David. If it was really innocent, why wouldn't she mention it? Why wouldn't she tell you about it? It was a fair question. It was the question that was now burrowing into my brain like a parasite, threatening to consume every rational thought I had left. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Why not last night?" He looked down at his shoes, expensive Nike basketball sneakers Jennifer had bought him last month. "Because I saw her today at lunch. She left the school early, said she had a dentist appointment, but I saw her getting into a car in the parking lot, a silver sedan, and the way she looked around before she got in, like she was checking to make sure no one was watching." He met my eyes again. "I was watching from the second-floor bathroom window. I skipped study hall because I felt sick after morning practice. I wasn't spying, I just happened to be there. And I saw her." The front door opened and both of us jumped like guilty criminals. Jennifer stood in the doorway, backlit by the warm glow of our entry hall. her dark hair pulled back in the casual ponytail she always wore after work, wearing her favorite grey cardigan over a blue dress I'd bought her for her birthday. "There you are," she said, smiling that smile that had made me fall in love with her in the first place. Open, warm, genuine. Or at least I'd always thought it was genuine. "I was wondering what was taking you two so long. Dinner's almost ready." "Noah, honey, how was the game? I'm so sorry I missed it. That meeting just dragged on forever." Another meeting. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "We won," Noah said, his voice flat. He pulled away from me and headed toward the house, shoulders hunched. "I'm not really hungry. I've got a ton of homework." Jennifer's smile faltered. "But I made your favorite, chicken parmesan with—" "I said I'm not hungry, Mom." He brushed past her into the house, and I heard his footsteps pounding up the stairs to his room. Jennifer turned to me, confusion creasing her forehead. "What's wrong with him? Did something happen at the game?" I stood there looking at my wife, this woman I'd pledged my life to, and realized I had no idea what to say. Every word that came to mind felt loaded with accusation and doubt. Every question I wanted to ask felt like it would reveal that I was already suspicious, that the seed Noah had planted was already taking root. "Teenage stuff," I finally said, walking towards her. "You know how he gets." She nodded, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Jennifer loved Noah fiercely, sometimes to a degree that made me feel like an outsider. He was her only child from her first marriage, the marriage that had ended when Noah was 10 and his father, Marcus, had decided he was more interested in his dental hygienist than his family. The divorce had been messy, according to what Jennifer had told me in bits and pieces over the years. Marcus had fought for custody he didn't really want, just to hurt her, just to maintain control. In the end, Jennifer had won full custody, and Marcus had moved to Arizona with the hygienist, sending child support checks and birthday cards, but rarely calling or visiting. Noah and I had developed an easy relationship, one built on mutual respect and shared interests. Basketball, old action movies, terrible puns that made Jennifer groan. He'd never called me Dad, and I'd never asked him to, but somewhere along the way, we'd become something like friends, something like family. And now he'd handed me information that could destroy everything. "David?" Jennifer was looking at me oddly. "Are you okay? You look pale." "Long day," I said, following her into the house. The smell of tomato sauce and melted cheese filled the air, normally comforting, now somehow nauseating. Work was brutal. That much was true. I managed a mid-sized logistics company, and we'd been dealing with a major supply chain disruption that had everyone on edge. But work stress was nothing compared to what was churning in my mind now. Jennifer went back to the kitchen, and I could hear her humming softly as she stirred something on the stove. I stood in our living room, looking at the photos on the mantel. Our wedding photo, both of us grinning like fools. A picture from our honeymoon in Charleston. Noah's 8th grade graduation. Last Christmas, all three of us in matching pajamas that Jennifer had insisted on, laughing at how ridiculous we looked. Were any of these moments real? Had she been lying to me all along? Or was this something new, some crack that had formed in our foundation while I wasn't paying attention? My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my brother Stephen. "Drinks tomorrow night? Been too long?" Stephen lived about 40 minutes away, worked as an architect, and had been divorced twice by the age of 38. We'd grown up close, but life had pulled us in different directions. Still, we tried to meet up monthly, usually for beers and basketball talk. I texted back, "Yeah, I could use that." "Everything okay?" came his immediate response. I stared at the screen, my thumbs hovering over the keyboard. What would I even say? I think my wife might be cheating on me because my stepson saw her sitting in a car with someone. It sounded paranoid even in my own head. "Fine, just need a beer and some brotherly wisdom," I typed. "You got it. Mulligans at 7? Perfect." I pocketed my phone and headed upstairs, ostensibly to change out of my work clothes, but really I just needed a moment to breathe. Noah's door was closed, and I could hear the faint sound of music playing, probably too loud for him to hear anything happening in the rest of the house. I stood outside his door for a moment, considering knocking, but decided against it. What would I say? Thanks for potentially destroying my marriage. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Instead, I went to our bedroom. The master suite Jennifer had lovingly decorated, with cream-coloured walls and navy accents, photos of beaches we'd visited, and aspirational quotes about love and trust printed in elegant script. I sat on the edge of our bed and put my head in my hands. Think, David. Think rationally. Jennifer had given me no reason to doubt her in 3 years. She was attentive, loving, present. We had our problems like any couple. She wanted another child. I wasn't sure I was ready for that responsibility. She sometimes got frustrated with how much time I spent at work. I sometimes felt like I was competing with Noah for her attention, but nothing serious. Nothing that suggested infidelity. But then again, what did infidelity look like? I'd never been cheated on before. Not that I knew of anyway. My previous relationships had ended for mundane reasons. Incompatibility, different life goals, one spectacularly mutual realization that we were better as friends. I had always thought of myself as someone who could see things clearly, who could read people, but maybe I'd been blind this whole time. I pulled out my phone and did something I immediately felt guilty about. I checked our cell phone account. We had a family plan, and I had access to all the usage details. Jennifer's number showed normal activity, calls to her school, to her mother in Florida, to her best friend Carla. Texts to numbers I recognized, to me, to Noah's school. But there, buried in the log from last night around 10:30, was a call to a number I didn't recognize. It had lasted 43 minutes. My hands started shaking. I could call the number. Right now, just dial it and see who answered. But what would that accomplish? If it was innocent, I'd look paranoid and controlling. If it wasn't innocent, did I really want confirmation via a phone call? David? Dinner? Jennifer's voice floated up from downstairs. I quickly closed the app and stood, my reflection catching in the mirror above Jennifer's dresser. I looked haggard, older than my 41 years. Grey was creeping into my dark hair more rapidly lately, stress lines deepening around my eyes. When had I stopped really looking at her? When had we stopped really seeing each other? I headed downstairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. Jennifer had set the table beautifully, as she always did. Cloth napkins, the good dishes, candles lit even though it was just a Thursday. She believed in making ordinary moments special, one of the many things I'd loved about her. Is Noah coming down? She asked, bringing a steaming dish of chicken parmesan to the table. I'll check. I went to the base of the stairs and called up. Noah, dinner. A pause then. I told you I'm not hungry. Jennifer appeared beside me, concern etched across her face. Honey, please come eat. You played a whole game. You need to refuel. I'm fine, Mum. She started toward the stairs, but I caught her arm. Let him be. He's 16. He'll raid the fridge at midnight if he gets hungry. She hesitated, then nodded. You're probably right. He's been so moody lately. I wonder if something's going on with that girl he likes. We sat down to dinner, just the two of us, the empty chair between us somehow louder than any conversation we could have. Jennifer served me a generous portion, filling my glass with the wine she'd opened, chatting about her day with a lightness that felt almost performative now that I was listening for false notes. So Sarah in the teacher's lounge was telling me about this new reading program, she said, twirling pasta on her fork. It's supposed to be incredible for kids with learning disabilities. I'm thinking of proposing it at the next staff meeting. It would require some grant writing, but I think I could make a strong case. I watched her mouth move, watched the animated way she used her hands when she was excited about something, and tried to reconcile this woman with the woman Noah had described sitting in a dark car with a stranger. How was your meeting last night? I asked, cutting into my chicken with more force than necessary. She looked up, something flickering across her face too quickly for me to read. Oh, you know. Tedious. Budget discussions are never fun, especially when we're looking at potential cuts to arts programs. I argued pretty hard for keeping music class. She smiled. I think I might have made an enemy of the superintendent, but someone had to speak up. Was Carla there? Carla taught 5th grade at the same elementary school. She and Jennifer had been friends for years since before I'd entered the picture. No, actually. She had that conference in Richmond, remember? She's been gone since Monday. She gets back tomorrow night, I think. So no alibi there. Not that I was interrogating my wife, not yet anyway. What time did it end? I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. Jennifer set down her fork. David, what's with the 3rd degree? Is something bothering you? No, I forced a smile. I was asleep when you got home. I was just curious. Around 11, maybe a little after, I came straight home. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her skin was warm, her touch familiar. Are you sure you're okay? You seem tense. I looked into her eyes, those green eyes that had captivated me from the first moment I'd seen her at that fundraiser for the library, where she'd been running a book sale and I'd been dragged along by a colleague. We'd talked for 2 hours about nothing and everything, and I'd walked away knowing I'd met someone special. I'm fine, I lied. Just work stuff. The Henderson account is giving us trouble. She squeezed my hand. You work too hard. Maybe we should plan a weekend getaway, just the 2 of us. We could ask my mom to come stay with Noah. We haven't been away since last winter. That sounds nice, I said, the words ashes in my mouth. We finished dinner making small talk, and I helped her clean up even though she insisted I didn't have to. The domestic routine of loading the dishwasher, wiping down counters, putting away leftovers. It all felt surreal, like I was watching someone else go through the motions of my life. Jennifer went upstairs to take a bath, and I found myself alone in our kitchen, staring at her phone sitting on the counter where she'd left it. She never left it sitting out. She usually kept it in her purse or her pocket, always within reach. Was this a test? Was she baiting me? Or was I losing my mind? I picked up the phone, my heart hammering. It was locked, but I knew her passcode, our wedding anniversary. She'd never hidden it from me. I typed in the numbers and the screen unlocked. I felt simultaneously powerful and disgusting. I'd never invaded her privacy like this before. We'd always operated on trust, on the assumption that we didn't need to monitor each other like suspicious teenagers. Her text messages showed recent conversations with me, with Carla, with her mother, with Noah's school, with other teachers. Nothing suspicious. I checked her call log. The same number from last night was there, 43 minutes. It wasn't saved under a contact name, just digits. I could call it. My finger hovered over the number. The sound of water draining from the tub upstairs made me jump. I quickly closed everything and set the phone back exactly where I'd found it, my pulse racing like I'd just run a marathon. I grabbed my own phone and headed to the living room, collapsing onto the couch. I needed to think, I needed to approach this logically. But every time I tried to organize my thoughts, they scattered like startled birds. Maybe Noah had misread the situation. Maybe there was a perfectly innocent explanation. People held hands platonically, didn't they? Maybe this friend really was going through a divorce and needed support. Maybe Jennifer was just being kind, being the compassionate person she'd always been. But that didn't explain the sneaking around. That didn't explain why she'd parked on the street instead of in the garage. That didn't explain the way Noah said she'd looked when she'd been caught, terrified. My phone rang, startling me. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but my mother had an uncanny ability to sense when something was wrong, and if I didn't answer, she'd just keep calling. Hey, Mom. David, sweetheart. I haven't heard from you in a week. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten you had a mother. Despite everything, I smiled. Linda Mercer was nothing if not persistent. At 68, she was still sharp as a tack, still playing tennis 3 times a week, still volunteering at the hospital where she'd worked as a nurse for 35 years before retiring. Sorry, Mom. Work's been crazy. Work is always crazy. That's not new. How's Jennifer? How's Noah? They're good. Jennifer's upstairs and Noah's in his room doing homework. On a Thursday night, doesn't he have a game tonight? We just got back. They won. Well, that's wonderful. And Jennifer, is she feeling better? I sat up straighter. What do you mean? She called me last week, said she was feeling a bit under the weather. I told her to make sure she was getting enough rest, that she works too hard with all her teaching and volunteering. My mother paused. Didn't she mention it? No, I said slowly, she didn't. Oh, well, maybe it wasn't anything serious. You know how your wife is, always pushing through. Reminds me of myself at that age. Another pause. David, is everything all right? You sound strange. I'm fine, Mom, just tired. You're a terrible liar. You always have been. Even when you were 6 and broke my grandmother's vase playing baseball into the house, you couldn't lie to save your life. Mum, if something's wrong, you can talk to me, you know that, right? I closed my eyes. I know, but everything's fine, really. All right, but I'm here if you need me. Stephen's there too. Don't forget you have people who care about you. I won't. Love you, Mum. Love you too, sweetheart. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of our living room, listening to the house settle around me. The furnace kicked on, sending warm air through the vents. Outside, a car drove past, its headlights briefly illuminating our front window before disappearing into the night. I thought about my mother's words. Jennifer had called her but hadn't mentioned feeling sick to me. Why? What else hadn't she mentioned? Footsteps on the stairs made me look up. Jennifer appeared in flannel pajama pants and one of my old college t-shirts, her hair damp from the bath, face scrubbed clean of makeup. She looked young and vulnerable, nothing like someone who was living a double life. I'm going to make some tea, she said. Want some? Sure. She disappeared into the kitchen, and I heard the sound of the kettle filling, the click of the stove igniting. When she came back, she curled up beside me on the couch, tucking her feet under her and leaning her head on my shoulder. I love you, she said softly. You know that, right? The words should have comforted me. Instead, they felt like tiny knives. I love you too, I said, because what else could I say? We sat there in silence until the kettle whistled and Jennifer went to make our tea. I watched her move through our kitchen like I was seeing her for the first time, cataloguing every gesture, every movement, looking for clues I'd missed. She brought back 2 mugs of chamomile tea, her favourite before bed. We drank in comfortable silence, or what she thought was comfortable silence. Inside, my mind was spinning, trying to figure out my next move. When we finally went upstairs, I paused outside Noah's door and knocked softly. Noah, you awake? A muffled, yeah. Can I come in? A longer pause. Sure. I opened the door to find him sitting at his desk, textbooks spread out in front of him, though I suspected he hadn't actually been studying. The look on his face was haunted, older than his years. How are you doing? I asked quietly, closing the door behind me. He shrugged. I don't know. I feel like I just blew up my whole family. You didn't blow up anything. You told me something that concerned you. That took courage. Did you talk to her? I shook my head. Not yet. I need to figure out how to approach this. I need more information. Are you going to follow her or something? There was something almost hopeful in his voice, like he wanted me to take action, to be the adult who fixed things. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But Noah, listen to me. No matter what happens, this isn't your fault. Adult relationships are complicated. And whatever's going on with your mom and me, it's not on you. Understand? He nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. At 16, he was old enough to understand that the choices he made could have consequences, could ripple out and affect the people he loved. Try to get some sleep, I said. And Noah, thank you for trusting me enough to tell me. I didn't know who else to tell, he said quietly. I couldn't just pretend I didn't see it. Back in our bedroom, Jennifer was already under the covers, reading a book with her glasses perched on her nose. She looked up when I came in, marking her page. Is Noah okay? He's fine, just stressed about school. She frowned. He never used to get stressed about school. Ever since he started high school, it's been so much pressure. I worry about him. He'll be okay, I said, changing into my own pajama pants. He's resilient. I got into bed beside her and she set her book on the nightstand, taking off her glasses. David, can I ask you something? My stomach clenched. Of course. Do you think we're happy? The question hung in the air between us like a living thing. What do you mean? She turned to face me, propping herself up on one elbow. I mean, do you think we're really happy? Not just going through the motions, but genuinely happy. Where is this coming from? I don't know. I've just been thinking lately about where we are, where we're going. We've been married 3 years, and it's been good. But sometimes I wonder if we're as connected as we used to be. You work so much, and I have Noah and my teaching, and it feels like we're just living parallel lives under the same roof. I couldn't breathe. Was this it? Was this her leading into a confession? I think all couples go through phases like that, I managed. Life gets busy. But that doesn't mean we're not happy. I guess. She lay back down, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes I wish we could go back to how things were at the beginning, when everything felt new and exciting, when we actually talked. We're talking right now. Are we, though? Or are we just saying words at each other? I didn't have an answer for that. We lay in silence for a long moment, and then Jennifer turned off her bedside lamp. Good night, she whispered. Good night. But I didn't sleep. I lay awake in the darkness, listening to Jennifer's breathing, even out beside me, her body warm and familiar next to mine. I thought about all the nights we'd fallen asleep like this, comfortable and close, and wondered how many of those nights she'd been lying awake thinking about someone else. Around 2 in the morning, I heard Jennifer's phone buzz on her nightstand. She didn't stir. I carefully reached across her, my hand trembling slightly, and picked up the phone. The screen showed a text notification from an unsaved number. Tomorrow, same place, noon. We need to talk. I set the phone back down carefully, my heart pounding so hard I was sure it would wake her. Tomorrow, noon, same place. Well, now I knew what I had to do. I spent the rest of the night planning, my mind working through logistics and possibilities. I would tell my assistant I had an off-site meeting tomorrow. I would follow Jennifer and find out once and for all what was going on. And then, armed with the truth, whatever it was, I would decide what to do next. As grey light began to filter through our bedroom curtains, I finally drifted into a restless sleep, my dreams full of shadowy figures and locked cars, and Jennifer's voice saying over and over, "We need to talk. We need to talk. We need to talk." When my alarm went off at 6:30, Jennifer was already up and in the shower. I got up, put on my running clothes, and went downstairs. Noah was sitting at the kitchen table eating cereal, still in his pajamas, his hair sticking up at odd angles. "Morning," I said. He looked up at me, his eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept either. "Did you decide what you're going to do?" "I'm going to find out what's really going on," I said quietly. "Today." "Do you want me to come with you? I could skip." "No. You go to school. Act normal. Whatever this is, you've done enough. The rest is on me." He nodded, pushing his cereal around in the bowl. "David." "I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong about what I saw." "Me too, buddy, me too." I went for a run, pounding through the neighborhood as the sun rose, trying to clear my head. By the time I got back, Jennifer was in the kitchen making coffee, dressed for work in slacks and a blouse, her hair pulled back in that professional ponytail. "Morning," she said brightly, kissing my cheek. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep." "Me neither," she admitted. "I had the strangest dreams." I wanted to ask what she'd dreamed about, but I didn't trust myself to hear the answer. Noah came downstairs with his backpack, grabbed the lunch Jennifer had packed for him, and headed out to catch his ride to school. He gave me one last meaningful look before he left. "He's been so odd lately," Jennifer said, watching through the window as he got into his friend's car. "I'm really worried about him. He's a teenager, they're all odd." She laughed, a sound that used to make me smile but now just made me sad. Fair point. We moved through our morning routine. Me in the shower, her finishing her coffee, both of us getting ready for work like it was any other Friday. But it wasn't any other Friday. Today was the day I would learn whether my marriage was real or a carefully constructed lie. I've got a dentist appointment at noon, Jennifer said as I was knotting my tie. So I might be a little late getting home tonight. I'll have to make up the time after school. A dentist appointment. That's what she was calling it. "No problem," I said, my voice remarkably steady. "I'll probably grab dinner with Stephen anyway. We're meeting for drinks." "Oh, that's great. Tell him I said hi. You two should do that more often." "Yeah," I said. "We should." We left the house separately, Jennifer heading to the elementary school 15 minutes before I left for my office. I watched her pull out of the driveway in her Camry, the same car Noah had seen her sitting in with a stranger, and felt my resolve harden into something cold and determined. At the office, I went through the motions of my morning. Emails, phone calls, a brief meeting about shipping schedules. My assistant Maureen poked her head in around 10. "David, I have those reports you requested. Also, your 11 o'clock is here early. Tell them I'll be right there. And Maureen, I need to step out around 11:30 for a personal matter. If anyone asks, I have an off-site meeting." She raised an eyebrow. Maureen had been with me for 6 years and could read me like a book, but nodded. "Of course. Everything okay?" "Fine. Just some family stuff I need to take care of." The meeting ran long, and by the time I escaped, it was 11:45. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, telling Maureen I'd be back after lunch, knowing full well I might not be back at all today. Jennifer's school was a 20-minute drive from my office. I knew the area well, a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and small local businesses. There was a coffee shop she liked 3 blocks from the school, a park where she sometimes took her class during good weather, and a small shopping plaza with a pharmacy and a sandwich shop. Where would someone go for a secret meeting? Somewhere public enough not to draw attention but private enough to talk. My money was on the coffee shop. I parked down the street with a clear view of the parking lot. It was 11:57. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. At exactly noon, Jennifer's Camry pulled into the lot. She parked near the back, away from the main entrance. She sat in the car for a moment, checking her phone, and I watched her face in profile, looking for signs of nervousness or guilt, but from this distance I couldn't read her expression. Then a silver sedan pulled in next to her, the same car Noah had mentioned seeing her get into yesterday. My breath caught in my throat. A man got out. He was tall, well-built, probably in his early 40s, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt. He had dark hair and moved with the kind of casual confidence that suggested he was comfortable in his own skin. He walked around to Jennifer's car and got in the passenger seat. I couldn't see through the windows well enough to watch them, but I could see their silhouettes. They sat close together, and even from a distance, the intimacy of their body language was unmistakable. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white, trying to decide what to do. I could march over there right now, confront them both, demand answers, or I could wait, see how long they stayed, follow one of them when they left. Before I could decide, my phone rang. Stephen's name flashed on the screen. "Not a great time," I answered. "I know we're meeting tonight, but I had a cancellation and I'm in your area. Want to grab a quick lunch?" I couldn't take my eyes off Jennifer's car. "Actually, I'm kind of in the middle of something." "David, what's wrong? You sound meow." "Jennifer's in a coffee shop parking lot with another man right now. I'm watching them." Silence on the other end of the line. Then, "Where are you exactly?" I told him, and 10 minutes later Stephen's black SUV pulled up behind me. He got out and slid into my passenger seat, following my gaze to where Jennifer's car was still parked next to the silver sedan. How long have they been in there? He asked. About 15 minutes. Stephen was quiet for a moment, studying the scene. My younger brother had always been more pragmatic than me, more willing to see the darker side of things. 2 divorces had taught him hard lessons about trust and betrayal. What do you want to do? He asked finally. I don't know. Part of me wants to storm over there, part of me wants to pretend I never saw this. But you did see it, and Noah saw it. So the question is, what are you going to do with that information? As if in answer, the passenger door of Jennifer's car opened and the man got out. He leaned back in, said something that made Jennifer laugh. I could see her head tilt back, could imagine the sound of that laugh I knew so well. And then he closed the door and walked back to his car. Follow him, I said suddenly. I'll stay with Jennifer. You follow him. Stephen didn't argue. He started his SUV and pulled out, keeping a careful distance as the silver sedan left the parking lot. I watched them go, then turned my attention back to Jennifer's car. She sat there alone for another 5 minutes, and I could see her wiping her eyes. Was she crying, laughing? I couldn't tell from this distance. Finally, she started her car and pulled out of the lot, heading back in the direction of the school. I sat there for a long moment, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. It could still be innocent. Friends met for coffee all the time. Friends laughed together. Friends hugged goodbye. But friends didn't make wives cry in parking lots. My phone buzzed. Stephen. Got his license plate. Running it through a buddy at the DMV. Meet tonight as planned. I texted back, yeah. Then I started my car and drove. Not back to the office, not home. I just drove, winding through streets without destination, trying to organize the chaos in my head into something resembling a plan. Eventually, I found myself at a park near the river, a place Jennifer and I had come to early in our relationship. We'd had a picnic here, watched the sunset, talked about our dreams and fears and everything in between. She'd told me about her difficult divorce, about how hard it had been to raise Noah alone, about how she'd never expected to find someone she could trust again. Had that all been a lie? Or had something changed between then and now? My phone rang again. This time it was Maureen. David, I hate to bother you, but the Henderson people are here for the 2 o'clock meeting. I told them you were at an off-site, but they insist they had it on the calendar for today at 2. I checked my phone. I'd completely forgotten about the meeting. Stall them, I said. Tell them I'm running 15 minutes late. I'll be there as soon as I can. I made it back to the office by 2:15, apologizing profusely to the Henderson representatives, and somehow managed to get through the meeting without completely falling apart. But as soon as they left, I closed my office door, sat at my desk, and let my head fall into my hands. What was I doing? I was neglecting my work, spying on my wife, involving my brother in my marital problems. This wasn't who I was. I was measured, rational, careful. I didn't make impulsive decisions based on incomplete information. But I also wasn't naive. Something was going on, and I needed to know what it was before I could figure out how to fix it, or whether it could even be fixed at all. At 5:30, I left the office and headed to Mulligan's, the sports bar where Stephen and I usually met. He was already there, sitting in a corner booth with 2 beers waiting. So, he said as I slid into the seat across from him, we need to talk. You found something. The car is registered to a Marcus Brennan, lives in Phoenix, Arizona. My blood went cold. Marcus, Jennifer's ex-husband. Stephen nodded grimly. Your stepson's father? What the hell is he doing back in town, and why is he meeting your wife in secret? I downed half my beer in one long swallow. I don't know. Jennifer said he was living in Arizona with the dental hygienist. She said he barely kept in touch with Noah, just sent money and the occasional card. Well, he's apparently keeping in touch with someone, Stephen said. The question is why. Maybe it's about Noah. Maybe something happened and they needed to discuss it. At noon in a coffee shop parking lot, without telling you or Noah. Come on, David. You're smarter than that. He was right. I was making excuses because facing the alternative was too painful. Artist, sir. What if they're getting back together? The words came out barely above a whisper. What if she still loves him? What if these last 3 years with me were just... what? A placeholder until he came to his senses. You don't know that. You're spiraling. Here's what we know for certain. Jennifer has been meeting with her ex-husband secretly, at least twice that we know of. She's lied to you about where she was and what she was doing. Those are facts. Everything else is speculation. So what do I do? Stephen leaned back in the booth. You have 3 options. 1, you confront her directly. Ask her what's going on, give her a chance to explain. 2, you keep watching. Gather more evidence before you make a move. 3, you walk away. File for divorce, cut your losses, move on. I can't just walk away, not without knowing why. Then you need to decide if you want to confront her now or wait. I thought about it, turning the options over in my mind. If I confronted her now, based on what I knew, she could deny everything or explain it away, and I'd never know the whole truth. But if I waited, kept watching, I might discover something even worse. I need more information, I said finally. I need to understand what's really happening before I make any decisions. Stephen nodded. Okay, then here's what we do. I'll help you. We'll figure out what Marcus is doing in town, how long he's been here, what his intentions are, and then, when you have all the facts, you can decide how to handle it. Why are you doing this? I asked. You could just tell me I'm being paranoid, that I should trust my wife. He looked at me seriously. Because I've been where you are, twice, and both times I ignored my gut because I wanted to believe everything was fine. Both times, I was wrong. I'm not saying Jennifer is definitely cheating on you, but I'm saying your gut is telling you something and you should listen to it. We spent the next hour strategizing. Stephen had a friend who was a private investigator, someone discreet who could do some digging into Marcus's activities. I would go home, act normal, and see if I could learn anything from Jennifer or Noah. One more thing, Stephen said as we were leaving. Whatever you find out, whatever happens, you're not alone in this, you've got family. Don't forget that. I hugged my brother, grateful for his presence, and drove home through the Friday evening traffic. When I pulled into the driveway, Jennifer's car was already there. I sat in my truck for a moment, steeling myself, and then went inside. The house smelled like something Italian, garlic and tomatoes and herbs. Jennifer was in the kitchen, stirring a pot on the stove, music playing softly from her phone. She looked up when I came in and smiled. Hey you, how were drinks with Stephen? Good. How was your day? Oh, you know, the usual chaos. One of my students brought his pet hamster for show and tell without permission, and it escaped. We spent half an hour trying to catch it. She laughed, shaking her head. Never a dull moment. She didn't mention the dentist appointment, didn't mention meeting anyone, just continued stirring her sauce like everything was perfectly normal. Is Noah home? I asked. Basketball practice. He'll be back around 7. I thought we could have dinner just the 2 of us for once. She served me a glass of wine and returned to her cooking, humming along to the music. I watched her, trying to see past the facade, trying to find the crack in her performance. Jennifer, I said carefully, can I ask you something? Of course. She didn't turn around, kept her focus on the stove. Are you happy? With us, I mean. With our marriage? Now she turned, wooden spoon in hand, a puzzled expression on her face. Where is this coming from? You asked me something similar last night. I'm asking because I want to know. I feel like we've been distant lately and I want to make sure we're okay. She set down the spoon and came over to where I was sitting at the kitchen island. She took my face in her hands, her eyes searching mine. David, I love you. I love our life together. Yes, things have been busy, and maybe we haven't been as connected as we could be, but that's normal. It doesn't mean I'm not happy. But if something was wrong, if something was bothering you, you'd tell me, right? Something flickered across her face. Guilt? Fear? But it was gone so quickly I might have imagined it. Of course I would. David, what's really going on? Are you happy? Is this about you? The deflection was smooth, practiced. Turn the question around, make it about my feelings instead of hers. I'm fine, I said. I just want to make sure we're communicating. We are. We're communicating right now. She kissed my forehead and went back to the stove. Dinner will be ready in 15 minutes. Why don't you go change into something comfortable? I went upstairs, feeling defeated. She was good at this, whatever this was. Deflecting, redirecting, maintaining the illusion of normalcy. If I hadn't seen her with my own eyes sitting in that parking lot with Marcus, I might have believed her completely. In our bedroom, I noticed Jennifer's laptop open on the bed. She usually kept it closed, put away. Had she been in a hurry? Distracted? I knew I shouldn't. Knew it was a violation of privacy, of trust. But trust was already broken, wasn't it? Whether by her actions or my suspicions, the damage was done. I sat down and moved the mouse. The screen came to life, showing an email inbox, Jennifer's personal email, not her school account. I scanned the messages quickly, looking for anything from Marcus or any unfamiliar names. Most of it was mundane, newsletters, receipts, messages from her mother and friends. But then I saw it buried in a folder labeled Personal, an email thread between Jennifer and an address I didn't recognize. The most recent email was from 3 days ago. The subject line read, "We need to tell him soon." My hands shook as I opened it. Jennifer, I know this is hard, but we can't keep putting this off. David deserves to know the truth. It's not fair to him, and it's not fair to Noah. We've waited long enough. We need to tell him soon before he finds out on his own. I love you, and I want this to work, but not like this, not built on lies. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The room spun slightly, and I had to grip the edge of the bed to steady myself. I scrolled up to Jennifer's response. I know you're right. I'm just scared. Scared of hurting him, scared of what this means for Noah, scared of everything changing. Give me a little more time, please. I promise I'll tell him this weekend. I just need to figure out how. Jay, this weekend. She was planning to tell me something this weekend, something about Marcus, something that would hurt me. I closed the laptop carefully, my mind reeling. Should I wait for her to tell me, or should I confront her now, armed with what I'd found? Before I could decide, Jennifer's voice floated up from downstairs. David, dinner's ready. I went downstairs on autopilot, my body moving while my brain tried to catch up. Jennifer had set the table beautifully again. Candles and good wine and pasta that looked restaurant quality. She smiled at me as I sat down, and I wanted to scream at her to stop pretending, to just tell me the truth. But I didn't. I sat down and I smiled back, and I played my part in this elaborate charade. This looks amazing, I said. It's your favorite, puttanesca. I thought you could use some comfort food after a stressful week. We ate, making small talk about nothing, and I tasted none of it. Every bite was sawdust in my mouth. Jennifer chattered about her weekend plans, grading papers, a possible lunch with Carla, maybe taking Noah shopping for new shoes. Oh, and I was thinking, she said casually, twirling pasta on her fork, maybe we should all sit down together tomorrow. You, me, and Noah. Have a family talk. There it was, the setup for whatever bomb she was planning to drop. A family talk about what? She set down her fork. Just things, changes. I don't know, I've just been feeling like we should check in with each other more, especially with Noah. Make sure we're all on the same page about stuff. What kind of stuff, Jennifer? She met my eyes, and for a moment I saw something raw and real there. Fear, guilt, regret. Can we talk about it tomorrow? I promise I'll explain everything. I need tonight to figure out how to say what I need to say. Is this about Marcus? The words came out before I could stop them. Her face went pale. What? Why would you? How do you know about? Know about what, Jennifer? What is there to know? She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Did Noah tell you? Did he say something? So she knew that Noah had seen something, knew and had been hoping he'd keep quiet. Tell me what, Jennifer? What don't I know? I was going to tell you tomorrow. I had a whole plan for how to explain. Explain what? That you've been secretly meeting with your ex-husband, that you've been lying to me about where you've been and what you've been doing. Tears started streaming down her face. It's not what you think. I swear to you, it's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Right now. No more waiting, no more plans. Just tell me the truth. She sank back into her chair, her whole body trembling. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Marcus is dying. The words hung in the air between us, and for a moment I couldn't process them. What? He has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He came back to town 6 weeks ago because he wanted to see Noah before the end. He didn't want to tell Noah directly because he didn't want to scare him. So he asked me to help facilitate it, to help him figure out the right way to tell his son that he's dying. I sat down heavily, my anger deflating into confusion. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew how it would look. I knew you'd think exactly what you're thinking, and Marcus made me promise not to tell anyone until we figured out how to tell Noah. He's embarrassed, David. Embarrassed and ashamed that he wasn't a better father when he had the chance, and now he's running out of time to make it right. But the way you've been meeting, the secrecy... I know how it looks, but it wasn't about us getting back together or anything like that. Marcus and I, we ended for good reasons. I don't have any romantic feelings for him, but he's Noah's father, and he's dying, and I couldn't just turn my back on him when he asked for help. I tried to wrap my mind around this new information, tried to reconcile it with everything I'd been thinking and feeling for the past 24 hours. Why were you holding his hand? Noah saw you holding his hand in the car. Jennifer wiped her eyes. He was crying. He broke down, talking about all the things he's going to miss, all the milestones he won't be there for. I held his hand because he needed comfort, the same way I'd hold anyone's hand if they were hurting. It wasn't romantic, David. It was human compassion. And today, in the parking lot, Noah saw you get into a car with him yesterday, and I saw you meet him today at the coffee shop. She looked stunned. You followed me. I needed to know the truth. So, instead of trusting me, instead of asking me directly, you spied on me? You were lying to me. What was I supposed to do? We stared at each other across the table, both of us hurt and angry and scared. Today, Marcus gave me a letter, Jennifer said finally. A letter he wrote to Noah, explaining everything. He wants me to give it to him tomorrow, and then he wants to meet with him next week. He's in hospice now, David. He has maybe a month left, probably less, and he wants to say goodbye to his son. I felt the anger draining out of me, replaced by something more complicated. Sympathy, guilt, confusion. You should have told me, I said quietly. No matter what Marcus asked, no matter what you promised him, you should have told me. We're married. We're supposed to trust each other. I know, she whispered. I know, and I'm sorry, I didn't know how. I kept thinking I'd find the right moment, the right words, but there never seemed to be a right time. And the longer I waited, the harder it got. Pulks. The front door opened and Noah's voice called out, I'm home. Jennifer and I looked at each other, 1,000 unspoken things passing between us. We need to tell him, I said. Tonight. No, not tonight. Let me give him Marcus's letter first. Let him read it, process it. Then we can talk to him together. Noah appeared in the dining room, sweaty from practice, his basketball bag slung over his shoulder. He looked at both of us, immediately sensing the tension. What's wrong? What happened? Nothing, honey, Jennifer said, forcing a smile. Just having a serious conversation. Are you hungry? There's pasta. I already ate at Tyler's house. He looked between us again. Seriously, what's going on? You both look like someone died. The unfortunate choice of words made Jennifer flinch, and I saw Noah notice it. Noah, I said, Your mum has something she needs to talk to you about tomorrow. Something important. Is someone actually dead? Now he looked frightened. No one's dead, Jennifer said quickly. Just tomorrow, okay? I promise I'll explain everything tomorrow. Noah looked at me for confirmation, and I nodded. He didn't seem satisfied, but he dropped his bag and headed upstairs, calling back, "This family is getting really weird lately." After we heard his bedroom door close, Jennifer and I sat in silence for a long moment. "I really am sorry," she said finally, "for lying, for making you doubt me, for all of it. I handled this completely wrong." "Yeah, you did." I couldn't quite keep the bitterness out of my voice, but I also should have trusted you enough to ask instead of jumping to conclusions. You had reason to be suspicious. I gave you plenty of reasons. We cleaned up dinner in silence, moving around each other carefully, like two people who'd forgotten how to be in the same space. When everything was put away, Jennifer turned to me. "David, I need you to understand something. When I married you, I meant those vows, for better or worse. I know this situation is complicated and messy, but I need you to believe that my commitment to you, to us, hasn't wavered. Not for a second." I wanted to believe her, but trust, once broken, doesn't repair itself overnight. "I need some time," I said, "to process all of this, to figure out how I feel." She nodded, tears spilling over again. "I understand. Take whatever time you need." I went upstairs to our bedroom, but I couldn't bring myself to want to get into bed. Instead, I grabbed a pillow and a blanket and headed to the guest room down the hall. "David?" Jennifer started to follow me. "Please," I said, not turning around. "Just give me tonight. I need space to think." I closed the guest room door and sat on the bed, trying to untangle the knot of emotions in my chest. Relief that Jennifer wasn't having an affair. Anger that she'd lied. Sadness for Marcus, for Noah, for all of us caught in this impossible situation. Guilt for not trusting my wife. Resentment that she'd put me in a position where trust was impossible. My phone buzzed. A text from Stephen. "Well, how'd it go?" I typed out the whole story, my thumbs flying over the screen. When I finished, his response was immediate. "Holy shit, I did not see that coming. You okay?" "I don't know what I am," I typed back. Part of me feels like an asshole for not believing her. Part of me is still angry that she lied. Both of those things can be true. Give yourself time to process. Want to grab lunch tomorrow? Can't. Family drama continues. But thanks for having my back today. Always, brother. Call me if you need anything. I lay back on the guest bed, staring at the ceiling, and thought about Marcus. I'd never met the man, but I knew his story from Jennifer and Noah. By all accounts, he'd been a terrible husband and an absent father, someone who'd prioritized his own desires over his family's needs, and now, facing his own mortality, he wanted to make amends. Was it too little, too late? Or was any attempt at reconciliation better than none? And what about Noah? How would he handle learning that the father who'd barely been present in his life was now dying? Would he want to see Marcus, to give him a chance to apologize? Or would he refuse, holding on to the hurt and abandonment? Either way, tomorrow was going to be brutal. I must have eventually fallen asleep because I woke to sunlight streaming through the guest room window and the smell of coffee drifting up from downstairs. My phone showed 8:30, later than I usually slept on weekends. I got up, splashed water on my face in the guest bathroom, and headed downstairs. Jennifer was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, still in her pajamas, looking like she hadn't slept at all. When she saw me, she gave me a tentative smile. "Morning, there's coffee." "Thanks." I poured myself a cup and sat down across from her. "Where's Noah?" Still sleeping. I thought I'd let him rest before—" She trailed off, gesturing vaguely at the envelope sitting on the table between us, Marcus's letter. "When are you going to give it to him?" "This morning, when he wakes up. I think it's better to do it sooner rather than later, don't you?" I nodded. "Have you read it?" No. Marcus said it was for Noah's eyes only. He wants Noah to hear from him directly in his own words, before we all sit down to talk. We sat in silence, sipping our coffee, and I studied my wife across the table. In the morning light, I could see the exhaustion in her face, the stress lines that had deepened over the past weeks. She'd been carrying this burden alone, trying to protect everyone, Marcus's privacy, Noah's feelings, my peace of mind, and in the process had nearly destroyed everything. "I'm still angry," I said quietly. "I want you to know that. I understand why you did what you did, but I'm still hurt that you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth." "I know, and I don't blame you for being angry. If the situation were reversed, I'd be furious. But I also understand that you were in an impossible position, and I'm sorry Marcus is dying. Whatever happened between you two, whatever mistakes he made, no one deserves that." "He's scared, David. I've never seen him scared before, but he's terrified. Not just of dying, but of dying without making things right with Noah. And I couldn't turn my back on that, even if staying involved meant risking my marriage. I just wish you'd let me be part of it. Let me help you carry that burden instead of trying to do it all alone." "You're right. I should have. I will from now on. No more secrets. No more lies. I promise." Footsteps on the stairs announced Noah's arrival. He wandered into the kitchen in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair a mess, squinting against the morning light. "Is it intervention time?" he asked, only half joking, because that's what this feels like. "Sit down, honey," Jennifer said. "We need to talk." Noah poured himself orange juice and sat down, looking between us warily. "Okay, this is officially freaking me out. What's going on?" Jennifer took a deep breath and pushed the envelope across the table to him. "This is from your father. He asked me to give it to you." Noah stared at the envelope like it might explode. "My father? Marcus? Why would he—" "When did you even talk to him?" "Just read the letter, sweetheart. And then we'll talk about everything, I promise." Noah picked up the envelope with shaking hands, looked at both of us one more time, and then tore it open. He pulled out several sheets of paper covered in handwriting and began to read. I watched his face as he read, saw the confusion give way to shock, then disbelief, then grief. By the time he reached the second page, tears were streaming down his face. "This can't be real," he whispered. "This is some kind of sick joke, right?" Jennifer reached across the table to take his hand, but he pulled away. "How long have you known?" he demanded. "How long have you been keeping this from me?" "6 weeks. He asked me not to tell anyone until he was ready to tell you himself." 6 weeks? He's been in town for 6 weeks, dying, and you didn't think I deserved to know. He wanted to tell you in his own way, in his own time. "That's bullshit!" Noah slammed his hand on the table, making both of us jump. "You don't get to make that decision for me. He doesn't get to make that decision for me." "Noah, please." "How long does he have?" The question came out hard and bitter. "A month? Maybe less. He's in hospice now, getting palliative care." "Good." Noah's voice was cold in a way I'd never heard before. "Good. He deserves to suffer after what he did to us." "Noah, you don't mean that," I said gently. "Don't I? He left us, David. He walked away from Mum, from me, and he never looked back. And now, when it's convenient for him, when he wants to clear his conscience before he dies, we're all supposed to what? Forgive him. Welcome him back with open arms." "No one's asking you to forgive him," Jennifer said. "But he's asking for a chance to say goodbye, to apologize, to maybe give you some closure." "I don't need closure from him. I stopped needing anything from him years ago." But even as he said it, I could see the conflict in his eyes. The part of him that was still a little boy wanting his father's love, warring with the teenager who'd learned to live without it. "What does he want from me?" Noah asked, looking back down at the letter. "He says in here that he wants to see me, to talk to me. What am I supposed to say to him?" "Whatever you want," I said. "You can tell him you're angry. You can tell him you hate him. You can tell him nothing at all. But at least meet with him once, because if you don't, and he dies, you might regret not taking that chance. Or I might regret giving him the satisfaction of my forgiveness when he doesn't deserve it. That's your choice to make, Jennifer said. But make it from a place of clarity, not anger. Read the letter again. Think about what you want, what you need, and then decide. Noah clutched the letter in his fist, his whole body shaking. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe he's really dying. I know, honey. I know this is a lot to process. Is that what I saw in the car? Noah asked suddenly, looking at his mother. Was he crying? Was he telling you he was dying? Jennifer nodded. Yes, that's what you saw. Noah turned to me. And you thought... Oh man, David, you thought Mom was cheating on you with Marcus, didn't you? It crossed my mind, I admitted. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have told you to keep it secret. I should have just come clean about what I saw so you wouldn't think. He trailed off, shaking his head. This whole situation is so messed up. It is, I agreed, but we'll figure it out together, all three of us, as a family. Noah looked at me with something like gratitude in his eyes, and I realized that despite all the chaos, despite the lies and the pain, we were still a family. Imperfect, complicated, but holding together. I need some time, Noah said finally, standing up with the letter still in his hand. I'm going to go for a run, clear my head. Can we talk about this more tonight? Of course, Jennifer said. Take whatever time you need. After Noah left, Jennifer and I sat at the table in silence, listening to the sound of him thundering around upstairs, getting ready for his run. That went better than I expected, Jennifer said quietly. He's strong, stronger than either of us gives him credit for. He gets that from you, you know. The way you've been there for him these past 3 years, showing him what it means to be steady and reliable, that shaped him more than you know. He had that strength before I came along. He survived his parents' divorce, survived feeling abandoned by his father. He's been building that strength his whole life. The front door slammed and through the window we watched Noah jog down the driveway and disappear around the corner. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait for Noah to decide if he wants to see Marcus. And regardless of what he decides, we support him. She looked at me seriously. Can you do that? Can you support him even if it means spending time with my ex-husband? If that's what Noah needs, then yes. But Jennifer, we need to talk about us, about what happens after all of this is resolved. I know, and I'm ready to have that conversation whenever you are. I'm not sure I know how to trust you again, I admitted. I want to, but every time I look at you now, I'm going to wonder what else you're not telling me. Tears filled her eyes again. I know I broke something between us, and I know it's going to take time to rebuild it. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes, David, counseling, complete transparency, whatever you need from me. I think counseling is a good idea, for both of us individually and as a couple. Okay, I'll start looking for someone on Monday. We spent the rest of the morning in a strange limbo, moving around each other carefully, both of us raw and uncertain. When Noah came back from his run an hour later, sweaty and flushed, he looked calmer. I want to see him, he announced, standing in the kitchen doorway. Not because I forgive him, or because I think it'll magically fix everything, but because you're right, David. If I don't, I might regret it. And I already have enough regrets about my relationship with my father. Jennifer hugged him tightly. I'm proud of you. That took a lot of courage. When can I see him? Noah asked. Whenever you want. He's at Riverside Hospice. I can call him, set something up for this weekend if you're ready. Tomorrow, Noah decided. Sunday afternoon. Will you both come with me? Jennifer and I exchanged glances. If that's what you want, I said, we'll be there. And just like that, our strange, broken family had a plan. We would go to the hospice tomorrow, and Noah would see his dying father, and whatever happened after that, we would deal with together. But as I sat there watching Jennifer make the call to Marcus, watching Noah pace nervously around the kitchen, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still missing something, that there was still one more piece to this puzzle that we hadn't discovered yet. I just hoped that when we found it, it wouldn't destroy us completely. That evening passed in a blur of nervous energy and forced normalcy. We ordered pizza for dinner, watched a movie none of us really paid attention to, and eventually retreated to our separate corners of the house. Noah to his room, Jennifer to our bedroom, and me, once again, to the guest room. "You don't have to sleep in there," Jennifer said as I was heading down the hall. "You can come back to our bed. I promise I won't crowd you." "I just need a little more time," I said. "It's not punishment. I just need space to process everything." She nodded, looking hurt but understanding. "Okay, but David, I love you. I need you to know that." "I love you too," I said, and I meant it. Even with everything that had happened, that much was still true. I lay in the guest bed staring at the ceiling and thought about the next day. Meeting Marcus for the first time under these circumstances felt surreal. What did you say to a dying man? How did you support your stepson through saying goodbye to the father who'd abandoned him? My phone buzzed. A text from Stephen. "How'd it go today?" I called him instead of texting back. He answered on the first ring. "You okay?" he asked immediately. "Define okay. We told Noah. He's decided he wants to see Marcus tomorrow. We're all going to the hospice together." "Wow, that's heavy. How's he taking it?" "Better than I expected, honestly. He's angry and hurt, but he's also being really mature about the whole thing. More mature than his mother, actually." "And you? How are you and Jennifer?" I don't know what we are. She's sorry, I'm hurt. We both want to fix this, but I don't know how long that's going to take." She suggested counseling. "That's a good sign. Shows she's serious about making things right." "Yeah. I just keep wondering what else I don't know, you know? Like, if she could hide something this big for 6 weeks, what else might she be hiding?" "David, I think you need to be careful not to let paranoia destroy what might be salvageable." "Yeah," she messed up. Big time. But her reasons were understandable, even if her methods were completely wrong. Don't punish her forever for one mistake. "When did you become the voice of reason about relationships?" He laughed. "Hey, 2 divorces teach you a lot about what not to do. Learn from my mistakes, man." We talked for another 20 minutes about nothing in particular: basketball, work, our mother's latest attempts to set Stephen up with one of her friend's daughters. It felt normal, grounding, and by the time we hung up, I felt slightly more balanced. Sunday morning arrived too quickly. I woke to the smell of bacon and found Jennifer making a full breakfast: pancakes, eggs, bacon, fruit. Comfort food for an uncomfortable day. Noah came down already dressed, wearing dark jeans and a button-down shirt I'd never seen him wear. He looked older, more serious. "You didn't have to dress up," Jennifer said gently. "It's not." "I know, I just wanted to." "Is that weird?" "Not weird at all, honey." We ate breakfast mostly in silence, the weight of the afternoon ahead hanging over us. Jennifer had called Marcus last night and arranged for us to visit at 2 o'clock. That gave us a few hours to kill, but none of us seemed interested in doing much of anything except waiting. At 1:30, we piled into my truck, I'd offered to drive, and headed across town to Riverside Hospice. It was a beautiful facility, designed to look more like a peaceful retreat than a place where people went to die. Gardens, walking paths, large windows letting in natural light. We checked in at the front desk, and a kind-faced nurse led us down a quiet hallway to room 117. "He's awake and lucid," she said softly, "but he tires easily, so try not to stay too long. And if you need anything, I'll be at the nurse's station." She knocked gently on the door, then opened it. "Marcus? Your visitors are here." And there he was, Marcus Brennan, lying in a hospital bed, looking nothing like the photos I'd seen of him. He'd been a handsome man once. I could see where Noah got his strong jaw and his dark eyes, but cancer had hollowed him out, left him gaunt and pale, a shadow of whoever he used to be. His eyes lit up when he saw Noah, and I saw tears immediately spring into them. "Noah," he whispered. "Oh God, Noah, you came." Noah stood frozen in the doorway for a long moment. Jennifer gently touched his back, encouraging him forward, and finally, he moved, walking slowly to the side of the bed. "Hi, Dad," he said, his voice breaking on the last word. And then he was crying, and Marcus was reaching up with shaking hands to touch his son's face, and Jennifer was crying too, and I stood there feeling like an intruder in this deeply private moment. "I'm so sorry," Marcus was saying over and over. "I'm so sorry for everything." Jennifer moved to the other side of the bed, taking Marcus's hand, and I saw something pass between them. Not romance, but shared history, shared pain, and now shared grief over what they were losing. I stayed back, giving them space, watching this broken family try to find some kind of peace in the time they had left. After a few minutes, Marcus's eyes found mine over Noah's head. "You must be David," he said, his voice weak but clear. "Thank you for coming, for supporting Noah, for being the father I should have been." The words were generous, more generous than I deserved, given how I doubted Jennifer, but I nodded. "He's a good kid," I said. "You should be proud." "I am. I'm prouder of him than I've ever been of anything in my life. I just wish I'd figured that out sooner." We stayed for about 45 minutes, and in that time I watched Marcus try to compress a lifetime of fatherhood into a few precious moments. He told Noah stories from when he was a baby, apologized for missing birthdays and school events, tried to explain the choices he'd made and why he'd made them. Noah listened, sometimes angry, sometimes sad, but always honest. He didn't pretend to forgive instantly or claim everything was okay, but he gave his father the gift of his presence, his attention, his time, and for Marcus, that seemed to be enough. As we were getting ready to leave, Marcus asked to speak to me alone. Jennifer and Noah went to wait in the hallway, and I stood awkwardly at the end of his bed. "I don't have much time," Marcus said, "so I'm going to be direct. Jennifer loves you, really loves you, in a way she never loved me. I know my being here has caused problems between you two, and I'm sorry for that. But don't let my mistakes, my presence, destroy what you have. She's a good woman, and she deserves to be happy. So do you. So does Noah." "I appreciate that," I said, not sure what else to say. "And David, thank you for loving my son. Thank you for being there for him when I wasn't. I hope someday he can forgive me. But even if he can't, I'm grateful he had you." There was nothing I could say to that wouldn't sound trite, so I just nodded and shook his hand. Carefully, because he was so fragile now. In the hallway, Noah was leaning against the wall, looking exhausted. Jennifer was talking quietly with the nurse. "You ready to go?" I asked Noah. He nodded. "Yeah, can we go home?" "Of course." The ride home was silent. Jennifer sat in the passenger seat staring out the window, and Noah was in the back, his head leaning against the glass. When we got home, Noah went straight to his room without a word. Jennifer and I stood in the kitchen, not quite sure what to do with ourselves. "That was," Jennifer started, then stopped. "I don't even know what that was." "Difficult, but necessary, I think." "Kotiti, he has maybe 2 weeks left," they said. "The cancer is progressing faster than they expected." "Will Noah want to see him again?" "I think so, I hope so. He needs to, even if he doesn't realize it yet." I made us both tea and we sat at the kitchen table, the same table where 24 hours ago I'd been confronting Jennifer about her lies, and now everything felt different, but also the same. "What happens after?" I asked. "After Marcus is gone, what happens to us?" Jennifer wrapped her hands around her mug. I guess that depends on whether you can forgive me, whether you still want to be married to me after everything I've put you through. I want to, I said honestly, but I don't know if wanting is enough. What if I told you there was something else, something I haven't told you yet? My blood ran cold. What? She took a deep breath. Marcus left me some money. Quite a bit of money, actually. From a life insurance policy he took out years ago. He never changed the beneficiary after our divorce. And now he doesn't want to. He wants Noah and me to have it. How much money? $300,000. Plus, he has some savings, maybe another $50,000. He wants it all to go to Noah's college fund and whatever else we need. I tried to process this. And you didn't mention this because I knew how it would look. I knew you'd think I was only helping him for the money. But I swear to you, David, I didn't know about the money until a few days ago. He told me because he wanted to make sure all the paperwork was in order before he died. $350,000. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's a lot of incentive to keep secrets. I didn't do it for the money. I did it because he's Noah's father and he was dying, and it was the right thing to do. But you still should have told me, especially something like this. I know, you're right. I was planning to tell you this weekend along with everything else, but then you found out on your own, and everything happened so fast. Is there anything else? Any other bombshells you're waiting to drop? She met my eyes. No, that's everything. I swear on Noah's life, that's everything. I wanted to believe her, but trust, once shattered, left sharp edges everywhere. I think we need some time apart, I said finally. Not a separation, not divorce, but some space to figure out what we really want and whether this marriage can survive all of this. Jennifer's face crumpled. David, please. I'm not leaving you. I'm not giving up on us. I just need some time to think clearly, and I can't do that while living in the same house, pretending everything is normal when it's not. How long? I don't know, a few weeks? Until after Marcus. Until after the funeral, at least. I'll stay at Stephen's place. We can still talk, still work on things. But from a distance. What about Noah? What do we tell him? The truth? That we're working through some things and we need a little space to do that. She was crying now, hard, her whole body shaking with sobs. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to take it all back and pretend we could just move forward. But the larger part knew that would be a mistake, that we needed this space, or we'd never truly heal. I went upstairs and packed a bag, moving methodically through our bedroom, taking only what I'd need for a few weeks. Jennifer didn't follow me, gave me the space to do what I needed to do. When I came back down, she was still sitting at the kitchen table, her tea untouched and cold. I'm going to tell Noah before I leave, I said. Okay. I knocked on Noah's door and found him lying on his bed staring at the ceiling, earbuds in. He pulled them out when he saw me. Hey, he said, you doing okay? I should be asking you that question. That was a lot today. Yeah, it was, but I'm glad I went. I needed to see him, to hear him say he was sorry. I don't know if I can forgive him, but at least now I know he regrets what he did. That's big of you. A lot of people wouldn't have given him that chance. Noah sat up, studying my face. You look like you're about to tell me something bad. What's going on? Your mom and I are going through some tough stuff right now. We're working on it, but I'm going to stay at Uncle Stephen's place for a little while. Give us both some space to figure things out. His face fell. Because of the stuff with my dad? Because of the lies? Partly, but it's more complicated than that. It's about trust and communication and a lot of things that your mum and I need to work through. Are you getting divorced? The fear in his eyes nearly broke me. In 3 years, I'd become a constant in his life, someone he could count on, and now I was leaving just like his father had. No, I said firmly. We're not getting divorced. We're just taking a little time to figure things out. Sometimes adults need to do that. But you're coming back, right? You're not just disappearing like my dad did. I sat down on the edge of his bed. Noah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying 10 minutes away at Stephen's apartment. You can call me anytime. Come visit whenever you want. I'll still be at your games, still be here for anything you need. The only thing that's changing is where I sleep at night. Okay. He nodded, but I could see he didn't fully believe me. Why should he? Every man in his life who'd ever promised to stay had eventually left. I promise, I said. I promise I'm not your dad. I'm not abandoning you or your mum. We're just hitting pause so we can figure out how to move forward. Okay, he said quietly. But David, come back soon. This family doesn't work without you. Those words stayed with me as I hugged him goodbye, as I said a quiet farewell to Jennifer, as I drove across town to Stephen's apartment. This family doesn't work without you. But did I want to be part of a family built on lies and secrets? Could I forgive Jennifer for hiding so much from me? I didn't know the answer, but I knew I needed space to figure it out before I made any decisions that couldn't be undone. Stephen was waiting for me when I arrived, a beer already open, the spare bedroom already made up. Welcome, he said. Mi casa es su casa, stay as long as you need. Thanks, man. I really appreciate this. That's what brothers are for. Now sit down, drink your beer, and tell me everything. So I did. I told him about the money, about Marcus's last wishes, about Noah's courage and Jennifer's tears. I told him about my doubts, my anger, my confusion. And when I was done, Stephen leaned back in his chair and said, You know what I think? I think you already know what you want to do. You're just scared to admit it because it means being vulnerable again. What are you talking about? You love her. Despite everything, you love Jennifer and you love Noah, and you want that family to work. You're just terrified of getting hurt again. So you're creating distance, putting up walls, protecting yourself. But here's the thing. You can't have a real marriage from behind walls. Eventually, you're going to have to decide if you're willing to risk getting hurt for a chance at real happiness. When did you become so wise? 2 divorces and a lot of therapy, remember? I'm basically a relationship guru now. A cautionary tale, but still. I laughed despite myself. I'll think about what you said. Don't think too long. Life's short and that poor woman is at home right now, probably tearing herself apart with guilt. If you're going to forgive her, don't make her suffer longer than necessary. That night, lying in Stephen's spare bed, I thought about everything that had happened in the past few days. The fear, the betrayal, the truth, the complexity of it all. And I thought about Marcus, lying in that hospice bed, dying with regrets that would follow him to the grave. I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to die someday wishing I'd been braver, more forgiving, more willing to fight for the people I loved. But I also didn't want to be a fool, blindly trusting someone who'd proven they could lie to my face for 6 weeks straight. Somewhere between those 2 extremes was the answer. I just had to find it. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Noah's asking about you. I told him you'd call tomorrow. Please don't forget, he needs to hear your voice. I texted back. I won't forget. Tell him I love him. He knows, but I'll tell him anyway. David, I'm sorry for everything. I stared at those words for a long time before responding. I know. Me too. And maybe that was the beginning of something. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement. A first step on what I knew would be a long road back to trust. If we could even get there at all.